You are being shaped, right now. Not by coercion, not by force, but by something far older and far more precise than command. It doesn't shout. It resonates. It doesn't push. It tunes. And the most unsettling truth? You're not resisting it, because you don't yet know where the signal begins. So, not your thoughts, your assumption. You think control looks like chains, like shouting, like dominance. That's the illusion, the decoy. Real control doesn't wear a uniform. It wears your attention. It speaks in your inner voice. It lives inside the split-second gap between stimulus and response. And that gap? It's not empty. It's occupied. The most masterful operators in human history, from ancient rhetoricians in Athens to modern behavioral architects in Silicon Valley, never said, "Do this." Here's what makes sense. Here's what everyone sees. Here's what feels safe. And then, silence. Because they knew. The mind doesn't obey commands. It obeys coherence. So they built coherence around the choice they wanted you to make. And you walked into it, freely. Let's name the first law. You do not respond to reality. You respond to your brain's real-time simulation of reality, built from memory, prediction, and threat assessment. Your visual cortex doesn't show you light, it shows you inference. Your amygdala doesn't hear words, it hears pattern matches to ancestral danger. Your prefrontal cortex doesn't weigh options, it retrieves the most rehearsed narrative. So when someone changes what you notice, or what you remember first, or what you assume is normal, they aren't changing your world. They're changing your model of the world. And your behavior follows the model, not the ground. Look at your phone. Scroll once. What do you see? Not content. Repetition. Same framing. Same cadence. Same emotional valence. Repeated until it stops feeling like influence and starts feeling like intuition. This isn't persuasion. It's neural calibration. Every time you hear an idea 3 times, in 3 different contexts, your brain tags it as high signal. Not because it's true, but because survival favored trusting patterns over verifying them. So social proof isn't about conformity. It's about cognitive efficiency. And efficiency, when weaponized, becomes obedience in slow motion. Let's dismantle the myth of rational choice. Neuroscience confirms. Emotion arrives 300 milliseconds before cognition. Your body decides before your mind narrates why. Fear doesn't wait for logic, it recruits logic. Belonging doesn't ask permission, it rewires attention. Status doesn't negotiate, it hijacks dopamine pathways, making dissent feel physically costly. So when someone triggers shame, or dangles admiration, or implies exclusion, they're not appealing to your values. They're downloading firmware into your autonomic nervous system. And firmware runs beneath willpower. Think of the last time someone didn't reply. Not for hours, but for days. What rose in you? Not anger. Anticipation. Not frustration. Self-interrogation. Did I say too much? Was I unclear? Should I send something else? Notice. They didn't demand your attention. They simply withdrew validation. And your own nervous system generated urgency. You weren't controlled. You were self-regulated into compliance. That's the highest form of leverage. When people police themselves on your behalf. Every comment, every seen notification is not feedback. It's operant conditioning. Your brain releases dopamine, not for the content, but for the prediction match. I posted, attention arrived, safety confirmed. So you adapt. Not your opinions, your expression. Not your values, your tone. Not your truth, your palatability. And over time, the loop doesn't just shape behavior. It reshapes identity. You stop asking, what do I believe? And start asking, what gets rewarded, and how do I become that? Here is the unvarnished architecture. Your attention is finite. Your working memory is narrow. Your threat detection is hyperactive. Your need for coherence is non-negotiable. These are not flaws. They are evolutionary features. And every institution, from religion to media to education, has learned to interface with them. Not to break you. To optimize you. For their stability. Not yours. But here is the design flaw in all control systems. They require invisibility to function. The moment you see the frame loses its power. The moment you name the trigger loses its velocity. Awareness isn't resistance. It's decompilation. It's taking the black box and reading the source code. So begin here, today. Pause for 3 seconds before any response, text, word, or action. In that silence, ask only one question. What just moved me, and where did that impulse first land? In my body? Not your mind. Your throat. Your chest. Your gut. That's where the oldest signals live. That's where influence enters, before thought names it. Then, just notice. Don't fix. Don't judge. Just witness the machinery. As it hums. Most people spend their lives reacting to stimuli they didn't choose, to narratives they didn't author, to rhythms they didn't set. But you are now holding the first tool that breaks the cycle. Not knowledge. Not willpower. Not even truth. Tension, directed, disciplined, and returned to yourself. That is not freedom from influence. That is freedom within it. Because the moment you see the game, you stop being a player. You become the field. You become the silence between the notes. You become unscriptable. Now, breathe and ask yourself, what just changed in the space where you used to rush?